Hello and welcome to another X-Force Data Summit presentation. Today I'm happy to have Gal Steinberg, who's VP at Revenue Grid. It's a very interesting product that can go into your inbox of your salespeople and pull out actionable information. This is going to be a little different from some of the other presentations because Gal's going to basically do a demo and I'm just going to ask him questions. I think the questions hopefully that others would have looking at the demo. So here's Gal.
Hey, Leonard, thanks for having me here. I'm excited to be here virtually.
Virtually, yes.
So I'm happy to talk about Salesforce and how we can use data that actually exists. It's communication data. A good example that I'm going to show here is data that exists in everyone's inboxes and sent items to really overlay Salesforce to bring really great insights around sales process and sales pipelines. With your permission, instead of looking at a boring presentation, let's look at Salesforce.
Yep, that sounds great.
Yeah, I'm going to start here with the opportunities created. We can see here some opportunities, a few of those that are supposed to close this month. Of course, this is all demo data. But I want to mention that every company I was in that used Salesforce in the last, 10, 15 years, there's a Monday morning meeting, sometimes it's Tuesday, but it's always revolved around pipeline. The sales team kind of opens Salesforce with the sales leader and they look at the pipeline. And one challenge that was consistent in every company I worked for is that it's not updated. And we can't rely on the data in Salesforce if it's not updated. Does it sound familiar to you?
Yeah, it's very familiar. I had a place I worked, we had Monday morning meetings too. And unfortunately, one of the things that happened was they devolved into just what you call here a BS session because there were no facts in Salesforce about what was going on with the pipeline. So I'm interested
exactly.
to hear. Yeah.
Exactly. And, I'm not saying anyone is lazy. I'm saying the sales team is working very hard on bringing deals, and sometimes especially deals that gone cold, there's less activity, kind of stay there. But, then there's the other side of it, right? And by the way, I'm here on the opportunity screen, but usually it's some kind of a report, a dashboard, something a little fancy that I'm showing here. But the underline is always the same, is how do we get it updated? Because what happened is, the VP might have a board meeting. He might have a meeting with the CEO to go over pipeline. And the last thing he wants is everything looks great on Monday with his team. On Wednesday, he goes into his manager and suddenly $1 million vanishes. And suddenly he's under budget and he needs to explain. He doesn't even know what happened. Happens a lot.
Yes.
So what we want to show, hey, where is this data? Actually, it's really good communication data that exists outside of Salesforce. Yes. Exists in Outlook, Exchange, G Suite, whatever you use for email, telephony system, if you connect that into your organization. And instead of this view, imagine we can show you this, right? Now, think of that VP sale that suddenly, this opportunity that's supposed to close in a few days, but is in early stages, or maybe there's, things that have gone wrong there. It's in red. It pops out, right? But not only that, you can actually see, are we engaging the people? What kind of effort? We are taking data, okay, that exists. And again, I'm showing my product here, but the company of my company, Revenue Grid, but it can be really, you can use it in Process Builder. You can do it anywhere in other ways. But the whole idea is, can you bring data that actually exists in your organization, overlay to Salesforce, and help the team actually get much better insights on where they are on sales. And we can definitely see here a few opportunities that I'll probably want to open and talk to my sales team and ask, hey, buddy, can you tell me what's going on here? And let's look and let's see what we can do better in that.
Yeah, especially that first one's a great example. A huge amount of engagement. Bombarded the customer with emails, had meetings, but you don't have anything scheduled yet. 40% is probably really high, and certainly it's not going to close in 6 days unless some miracle occurs, right?
Exactly, and let's look at this one. Also another one with a lot of effort, also in 6 days. big opportunity in our pipeline. Let's open this one. Let's kind of dig into that and look further with your permission.
Yeah.
So I'm opening this, and what we do is we take data that exists in Exchange and try to estimate the effort we're putting there and look at the activity that is happening, right? And again, there's other ways to do that. You definitely can do it with Process Builder or other tools. So what we can see here is we put a lot of effort. We had a bunch of meetings with the customer, but the last meeting we had with them was in January, we're in April. The last inbound email, right? Do we want to see that they're communicating with us? The last inbound email was for February 12th. So I think, Leonard, our sales team here just didn't update it, forgot to move it or close it. It's in the pipeline. We don't want. I don't want my VP of sales to go to the CEO and say, hey, pipeline looks great. Here we can see very clearly by bringing information that doesn't exist in Salesforce that this opportunity went cold.
Right, and the interesting thing about this is you're not looking at the content of the emails. You're just looking at who sent it, right? And clearly, after February, this lead has gone cold. This opportunity
gone cold. And all I see here is that the customer, in a long time, the prospect didn't send a single email back. And we can see the salesperson, well, he did his job. I joked earlier, but he did his job. He's trying.
Yeah.
He's trying. He's probably, making calls. He's emailing, but he's not getting a reply. And, what he needs to do is make sure that this is either closed or pushed, but definitely, you don't want it, in this closing in 6 days. And I've seen that. I've seen this happening in every company I was in. I've seen those opportunities. It's based, like they say in Hollywood, based on a true story, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of a zombie. Yeah. If we go with the Hollywood metaphor, this is kind of a zombie opportunity, right? Yeah.
Exactly. It's cold, and there's no way, and it's in the pipeline. So we want to make sure that we talk to the salesperson, make sure that the story that we see here is correct. Guide them and ask them, what can we do? Let's strategize. But in this case, we'll probably move that.
Right.
So that's one example. Let me show you another one, very similar from, we saw the same one needs to close in a few days. And in this case, we actually have incoming emails. We have meetings. We had a meeting actually here today, and another one last week and a few days before. So obviously there's engagement. This is an engaged customer, so it doesn't look like this is wrong, right? So something, it still was in red. There's something that still triggered our rules to say, let's give it another look.
So Gal, why are some of the green is customer inbound emails? Why are those so high? Is it because the customer responded quickly, or? That's
actually because they didn't respond quickly. That's actually high. The high actually means it's actually a good. It's an email. It looks like it is a lot of emails. Okay, a lot of.
Right.
But we actually try to say, an email. It takes time to write an email. The longer the email, the more engaged the email. You can see that it actually will estimate that it takes longer to write. And based on the fact that it looked like these are serious emails, people put time and effort to write them, will estimate that the effort is higher. So it can be the multiple emails or go back and forth with questions, answers, and based on that, we estimate that there's real engagement here going. So the higher the green line, the more engagement you see here.
Okay, I get it. Yeah, that's smart. I mean, and that's something that you'd get by digging a little deeper into the inbox of your salesperson. But it's not artificial intelligence. It's just trying to gauge effort.
It's actually, everyone talks about AI. This is business rules. This is business rules. This is how can we capture business rules with less intelligence and more process. I would say, there's some intelligence behind it, but it's really around capturing processes, understanding how a company operates, and using that to identify trends.
Right. Yeah,
And AI can just be, yeah, NI can enhance it, but it doesn't replace, just good business rules.
Yeah, we had talked a little earlier before we started recording the presentation, and I thought, oh, if you said your product goes into the inbox, and I thought, oh, you're going to be looking for certain keywords and all that, but you're just looking, I mean, I think rightly so, looking at, judging quality by reasonable metrics that if somebody writes a longer email, they care a little more.
Exactly. And it might be, questions, maybe, they send him some screenshots from asking questions, trying to configure, etc.
Yeah.
But, so why aren't we closing this in a few days if everything looks great? Let's look here at the next tab that we added here. Here we do something super interesting. We're actually looking at not only that there are emails, who are in the emails, and do we have them on our company, or of course in the prospect? Are we communicating with the contact roles we have in Salesforce?
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm going into here, I can see very, very quickly that we have one person on our company that's doing a lot of work with one person with the prospect. And one thing really comes up here. We're putting the 6 hours of communication meetings with an evaluator here. If I go down here, I can see the decision maker, 22 minutes. Obviously, we are not putting enough effort into the decision maker while we are talking to an evaluator that, here's a scenario that might happen here, right? That we're talking to, an influencer. It can be maybe in our world, we work a lot with, Salesforce customers, for example. It can be a Salesforce admin that continue asking questions. How do I set this up? He wants to make sure that everything is great, and he keeps, we're working on a lot of customization. And until he feels it's ready, he will not put us in front of Marcus, which is Sasha, who's the decision maker here, right? So we're definitely putting a lot of time with the evaluator. At some point, when you say, you know what, we put everything, you look happy. Can we move to the next step? But I do want to show you again. Let's use this data. Let's use the data from our mail data, right? And again, Gmail it can be Gmail, it can be Outlook, Exchange, Office 365. But let's remove anyone that's not in a 2, right? So if I remove, I go and dig deeper and say, you know what? Let's filter out. No, anyone that's not in a 2 line or not sending. Now we see one person talking to one person. Now we know we are not getting to the decision maker. He was on CC. He knows what's going on. But we need to get to him now if we want to close the deal. This will not close in 6 days otherwise.
Right. So one thing I will have to say is what's very clear is that, your tool helps address the issue of people not updating the pipeline, but you need a couple things to make it work. One is a really well-defined, well-staged sales process. I mean, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're on the 7th stage here. And the second thing is getting your contact roles right. I mean, we only know that Torsten is an evaluator because you've got a role for him.
But it's again about the business process. If our business process says we need to define a role, okay,
right,
we can create a rule that says, hey, in the opportunity for Burlington Textiles, you didn't define the role. And you know what? I actually can show it to you if I go back to Gene Point Generators here, and I'll go to the engagement tab, which I'm going to show in a second for Burlington Textile. So this is one of the examples here where we want to make sure that we capture those roles. And we'll see in a second that the role here is not captured. So you can see here, this comes in red because we did not capture those. So when we open this, immediately we see, oh, yeah, we're missing those. So we can go and define those contact roles, because here right now it says it's not defined. So this is an example, right? Let's go back here to this one, and I do want to go to the screen where in this case we actually do have the them involved. We already saw that.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to show here, we can actually, again, we create a screen in Salesforce mirroring what's in Google or in Exchange or Office 365. We can see for all the way to like, hey, what documents did we send out?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm the VP sales, I can ask, hey, I want to see, hey, did we send an agreement yet? Did we send so I can see we sent a price quote yet. But if this requires maybe like a contract, that did not go out.
Mm-hmm.
So in a deal this size, maybe we already need to send a contract. It has to go to legal. If this didn't start yet, we know probably
Right.
this stage takes X time. There's no way we can close this in 6 days.
Yeah, absolutely. So someplace in the definitions of this tool, you have to put in, okay, here's what this document is, a price quote, or this is our document staging.
Yes.
Basically, right?
Exactly. And some, and like many things, it's part art, part science. From the art perspective, the VP sits with the salesperson, can flip through that and say, oh, I can see that that there's no contract that went out yet. Where are we on that? Because he knows the type of documents and he knows what's going on. So that's where, that's sales. Sales is part art, part science. We try to help this, at least, with the science part, to make it a little structured. So let's introduce, but before that, I want to show some other things we can see on this screen. For example, we can see a summary of, when was the last activity. This one, it looks good because it was today, but we can see we are a long time in this stage. Mm-hmm. And we can see that the age of the opportunity is longer than what we want for opportunity this size. That's why it's in red. We can see when do we start engaging. We can see, the last attempt was today, so that's good. But we can see a lot of parameters here, a lot of things that tell me what is happening and how we are doing, all the way to, hey, it takes a long time. 6 days takes the response time from outside. That's probably something I want to talk to my salesperson. Why is it taking 6 days for them to answer this prospect?
Yeah.
Now from here, let's go to the next screen. And behind this, and I think you already kind of got that. Behind all of this concept, there's business rules, mm-hmm. right? And really, this whole idea here is, can we take a strategy? Some companies have a very formal one. They call it a playbook. But sometimes it's a very informal one. You have a VP sales that, make sure that, people know that he expects them to send a follow-up after a meeting, even if it's not written anywhere, right? But people know what to expect. If it's written, great. It's much easier to onboard. It's more scalable. But even if it's informal, that's fine. You can still break it down into little steps. And those little steps can be things that kind of a process that you need to follow, or things that you want to get attention for. An example can be, and again, the whole idea here is the information for those steps doesn't exist in Salesforce. Mm-hmm. We started the conversation by saying how people don't update it. And this is something that by looking at other systems, we can bridge the gap by saying, look at this. You actually sent out an agreement for customer X, right? But they didn't open it, right? So you can tie in external systems to get really nice insights. Right. Another one is here at the top is you put a lot of effort, again, by summarizing meetings, emails into a deal that's rather small. Maybe at this point we need to kind of, push to close this one.
Right.
Let's look at some other one that helped me sell better, right? Here's one where I sent an email maybe to a prospect, mm-hmm. and they didn't reply, right? So sometimes those things just fall between the crack. You email, you expect a response, the response doesn't come. Sometimes you remember to put a task in Salesforce, sometimes you don't. But here we don't need to, because automatically we can we can look at your sent items at your inbox, see there's no response in 5 days, and because you chose, if 5 days pass that I did not get a response, I want to now follow up, we can pop up this alert. We call it a signal. We call those sales signals. The more, some of them are negative, some of them are positive. Basically, they drive those red colors that I showed you when we started the meeting.
Right. Right. So it's not just one or two things. It's the combination of a number. You get in the red by a combination of negative signals. You get in the green
or maybe
signals.
Or maybe one that just says, hey, it takes about a month to be, to negotiate a contract in procurement for a big deal. If you didn't start the negotiation stage yet, there's no way you can have a close date less than 30 days. That can be a signal, okay?
Right. Yeah. Another
signal can be, let's take a completely different subject. Use customer service. Another signal can be a customer service email came in, and you didn't reply within 24 hours, right? And you're supposed to reply within 24 hours. So it can be not only on sales and opportunities, it can be on other objects like cases.
Yep. Now, does that come bundled with your tool, those things, and do you give the person configuring it a set of things that they can either turn on or turn off, or am I starting from scratch if I'm
We do on our tools, we do, but as I mentioned, you can use our tool or can capture something like that using other tools or using a process builder.
Sure.
What I'm trying to just say here, the data exists. Take the data, okay?
Yeah.
Take the data and use any tool you want, but take the data and help the sales team capture, be more productive by highlighting things. I work with partners. I send a lot of emails, and I do the same thing. I want to know if I sent an email and sometimes it passed and I didn't get the response. I want I use this to remind me, hey, time to follow up, right? And here's where the art and science come in. Sometimes you say, you know what, in this case, right now, in this situation with COVID-19, I'm backing off a little bit. So maybe I'm waiting a little bit more until the next email because I definitely know that people are on holding patterns. But still, it really helps capture. And think of this new sales guys come into the company. He gets like the informal or formal talk about what the process is. But this really helps him kind of be on track and knows what he's expected to do next in each step.
Right.
And I do want to mention earlier, you mentioned the AI. AI may kind of do a lot of crunching and say, based on it, maybe the next suggestion is this step. But this is not AI trying to tell people how to sell. This is people saying, how do you want the process to be? And let the system follow that process.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
I see the difference.
Cool. So this is really around take this big sales strategy, turn it into small discrete steps, and help people be on top of the process, and find things that you want, things that are changing and happening, and you want to pop up for attention, like you sent an agreement, it wasn't signed, that you want to make sure that you pick up the phone and follow up, etc.
Right. Yeah. And I think throughout this, I'm really getting the flavor of smaller, more discrete steps in your sales process stages. Give you more places to hook in, give you more hooks where you can say, hey, are we moving forward or not moving?
Exactly. This feeds this. These are aligned. Right. Because if you really follow those steps, the result is here, everything will be, they might have some color, but that's because there's issues that you need to solve, and maybe you want to bring attention with your VP. You want to create this transparency, and I think transparency is really very important right now. Everyone working from home, the VP wants to know his team is working, and the salespeople want to show that they're working. Here, if I'm a very busy salesperson, I'm sending a lot of emails. my VP can actually see that, and it happens more into strategy and brainstorming instead of why didn't you fill this field.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is the kind of this whole concept. Now I want to talk about regarding productivity in email, right?
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned how we can look at this external system, but let's try and help the sales team also be more efficient when they want to update Salesforce. So let's open Outlook very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I'll need to move the video of me and you here.
Yeah.
But the idea here is, there's out tools, there's other tool, but ideas like, people work in email. They send email back and forth. Yeah. And many times they miss updating Salesforce because, very simple, they forget to go open Salesforce, update it there. So that tools that bring Salesforce into your inbox. I'm using Outlook here, but some similar tools work with G Suite, Gmail, or others. Although I don't think the others between Microsoft and Google.
I think that's the market
others.
right there, isn't it?
Yeah. But I want to mention here, here, look at it. You can see here, I'm hovering over an email. I can see everything related. Mm-hmm. I can see the, an related opportunity, contacts, accounts, cases. So if I want to, make a quick change, maybe I dropped an email, maybe I want to log a call, I can do it straight from Outlook very quickly. Maybe these guys did come back, right? And say, you know what? Sorry for not answering. This is the same example from earlier, right? Sorry for not answering, but you know what? This will have to be for next quarter. But you know what? We'll make it up to you. We'll make it a bigger deal, right? We're gonna do it for, instead of 600,000, 800,000. Great news! I can update Salesforce, and I don't need to remember to go into Salesforce, and I'm not gonna get reprimanded at my Monday meeting for not updating, because as I'm communicating with email, I have everything in front of me, and I was able to do this change very quickly, straight from Outlook.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. So and anything from logging a call, and I can go click here, add if I need to add a task or add an opportunity. Right. Everything is my fingertip, and if I need to add quick call notes, everything is here. If I want to schedule a meeting, and again, there's other tools, but there's tools like Calendly and Time Trade, and we have some features around that. Like if I want to answer and either provide some time slots I'm available, or provide the link where they can click, like we scheduled the call. You used Calendly for that, which is a great product as well.
Right. Yeah.
Click that, schedule the meeting. Again, the less friction we can do, the more easier we can do it for the customer, for the salesperson. Will work smoother, and also have Salesforce updated.
Yeah, what Gal's referring to is to schedule all the virtual conference sessions here. I just sent out a Calendly link and had my time, that was connected to my calendar. And I've used that before, but not to this degree. And it's incredibly much more convenient for both parties. I think finding things like that in your sales process really help.
Exactly. So we have very similar tools here, either to create a link. And for example, I can create a link to show where I'm available, and maybe I will need to add in a sales engineer, and maybe I need to add in my manager, because it's we're talking to someone like senior in another company, and easily I can create a link where the three of us are available, or some time slots where the three of us are available, and that really makes life easier for the customer instead of going back and forth. And you know what? I hate when if I don't do that, and they come and say, "Hey, you're available Monday at 8, and I have another really important meeting on Monday at 8. Now I need to stop moving that. That just makes life easier."
Well, then it's 5 emails.
That's something I use a lot.
How about Tuesday at 3? Well,
exactly.
One thing about Calendly that I believe, I'm not a power Calendly user, but I believe it's hard to schedule group meetings in Calendly, right? It's easy to say, "Here's my calendar." But if I want to say, "Here's my calendar," but I also want to involve the sales engineer, and I want to involve the VP of sales, that's much more difficult.
I believe you're right. I believe you're right. Although maybe it changed, but I know like here we have a feature that we can do it easily, and I know the other tools that do that as well. So do your research, but you just want to make sure that those two really help your sales team. Don't waste time to find a meeting easily, click, and that's it. Let's move to other productivity saving that involves email, and so I'm going to move back to Chrome here, and I want to show here again. Go back to the tool we showed earlier, right? So now that we saw that we can sync everything, and the sync, the thing that I showed you, it doesn't have to be in Salesforce. You can either index it from outside, or you can use one of those tools to bring it in. But I want to show you here, there's more things that can be done with this data. Like for example, when I look at the team view, I can see the whole team productivity. Who's generating meetings? Who's generating inbound emails? Who's getting responses, right? And if I'm going to dive into our fake persona here, Roger, that we showed earlier, I can now dive into him. I can see his activities, his opportunities, and the amount of effort that he's putting in here. I can even see some stats about his email productivity, and you can add in other. We can add in other. If the company is integrated, there's some great tools like Netterbox or SMS 360, where you can add other communication, phone communication, and text messages. You can pump those into this type of solution to also add it to the communication channels that you're looking into.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of SMS is so widely used for that, and we don't capture it, for simple back and forth. I think even like simple like Twilio and other tools at the most basic have plugins for Salesforce, so you can at least track that a little bit.
Exactly. So if you add it into your communication, as long as there's some APIs and you use some corporate tool, you can add those and also add this to the conversation. And the last thing I want to say is to talk about for productivity is email sequences. Email sequences, when you, instead of sending one email, and again, this is part of the tools we are offering, but there are other tools that do that, like high velocity sales from Salesforce, Outreach, or SalesLoft. But what the whole idea behind it is, instead of sending a single email, let's create a sequence of emails. And it might be that I'm sending, in this case, in this example, there's email for day 1, for day 2, day 3, and day 5. In reality, it will probably be something more like day 1, day 4, day 7, day 14, and maybe a series of 7 emails. I was looking at the other day with one of our reps, and the reply rate on one email, the first one she had, was 3.5%. Okay, but the reply rate on a sequence of 6 or 7 emails was 21%. That's hundreds of percentage better getting through, and you don't need to remember to send the second email or the third email. Right? If someone replies, it will stop. So all you need to make sure is that you automate this. These are not marketing emails that come with HTML. These are emails that will look like an email from me to you, Leonard.
Right. Yeah, that's important.
I can go and I can fine tune and make sure that maybe add stuff regarding to conversations we had. But the underlying here is it create if you go from 3.5% to 20% reply rate because you had 7 opportunities for the person to not get busy and answer you. And again, the assumptions here is some people don't answer because they were just busy. They wanted to, but they forgot. And you know what happens after 20 minutes of not answering? Your email is already in page 2 and page 3 and page 4, right? Yeah. Go figure. Sometimes it's like, oh, someone sent me an email. I wanted to come back. Oh, but then when they send again, yeah, I meant to answer you. It just bubble up to the top of the inbox, and 100% of improvement on reply rates.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, the Outlook example you were showing a minute ago, it's a follow-up from a conference. Well, somebody gets back from a
Exactly.
conference, they're busy. So, and
Uh, uh,
your email goes down to the pile, bottom of the pile.
not only that, on conference is a good example where I tell the teams, even if the person says, email me on Monday, don't email them on Monday. They'll come back
Yeah,
on Monday and they'll be piled up with things that they need to do in the office.
right.
At least wait to the middle of the week, or sometimes, with the first email, then the next email in the sequence can even be, the week later.
Hmm.
But then send two or three together in the same week, because when people come back from a conference, even if they had good intention, they sometimes just didn't remember how much things piled up when they left the office.
Right.
However, right now there's no conferences. We're all working from home. We need to use email
Right.
more. I think
Exactly.
I think the email. I see my inbox way more crowded. I don't know about yours. I
Yes.
get way more emails right now.
Yes.
So I feel that this is even needed more right now when the email became a very crowded space.
Right. And the other thing is that I think that most people are sitting at their desk doing their email now versus, so I think people are probably texting less than they were before. Texting is, I'm going somewhere and I'm back and forth. I'm going to have a quick reply. I don't know if that's the case, but it's certainly true for me. I mean, I'm sitting at my desk all day. I'm not out, traveling or doing anything else. So email assumes an even greater importance in how I do business.
Yeah, I definitely get more right now, and I think to get through, you might need to send more emails. So using a tool that generates sequences will
Right.
help you get through and make the sales team a little more efficient. And if you tie it to those signals that I showed earlier, and again, and more important, bring all this information back into Salesforce. Bring
Mm-hmm.
all this information, whatever tool you use, make sure that the information is captured back into Salesforce. So there's one repository. If the person replied, you can see it, and you can tie it to those, this sales process they showed earlier, to the pipeline. Everything has creates a much better picture. And at the end, if you go and everything looks in green, you look great, the company looks great, the CEO looks great, and the board will be happier.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh,
So I think that covers most of the stuff that I had prepared. Do you have any questions? Or I don't know, maybe
I
from
don't.
the
I
crowd
think I
soon.
asked all my questions, but I guess I just keep going back to this works if you have a well-defined sales process. Is the take home that I'm getting from this. Do you think that it's not a tips and tricks sales process? It's well-defined stages and a concentration on moving from stage to stage to stage and understanding if you're stuck in a stage or even if you go backwards from a stage, trying to capture that information. Is that fair?
So from my experience, every company has it. The only difference is in some companies it's written down.
Yeah.
It's like a guide, a playbook. In some companies, they have it. They have those steps, but it was not like well defined. But they have Salesforce. They had to define some steps. Okay,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's more of an art than a science, where the VP never wrote it down, but he has a one-on-one, and everyone knows their expectations. So whether you have it written down or you
Mm-hmm.
have it informal, you can still capture that. And you know
Right.
what? You can start with simple. You can start with simple and say, let's just define a basic set and start with that and see how it goes. And as time evolves, seriously, like any Salesforce implementation, as time evolves, you say, okay, you know what? We're ready now to the next step. Let's add some more rules or some more tools, right? I think you can evolve it from simple, and as you strategize and you say, you know what, it'd be really cool. Maybe a salesperson. Again, maybe a company where things are less formal, but a
Mm-hmm.
salesperson, on a Monday meeting says, what would be really cool if when I send this agreement, when they open it, I know about it, and I can make call them the minute they open. Yeah. So now you can add that into those signals, right?
Right.
It can be something that evolves naturally and start with some kind of a template, or it can be companies that have it already written down, capture those, and again, you take the business process and define it into small steps that you can follow.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying, start small, especially. I mean, I don't know about you when you look at Salesforce orgs, but most of the Salesforce orgs I've looked at, the data quality could always be improved. So, like your example of contact roles, we have to have the decision maker, and we have to have the evaluator defined for all accounts. Put that in your rule, however you create a rule or however you want to enforce it, and run reports or do whatever to get your signals. But until you have those,
even if we didn't have that here, let's look at this example we had earlier. Even if we didn't have it here, but we opened it and I asked the sales, Mr. Salesperson, right? Mr. Account Exec, who's this guy? Who's Thurston? Oh, he's the Salesforce admin. Okay, now we know. Okay, even if it's not written, now we know.
Right,
oh, you know what? Next time, can you just put it in Salesforce? But let's look. Let's look who's here. What's this guy's role? What's this girl role? Oh, this guy is their IT director, and he owns the budget. Oh, he's a decision maker. Let's try and get more. Can you try and get him on the next call?
Yeah.
It can be, again, take the science, add the art to that, have some conversation. The same as people moved from waterfall to agile development. Have conversation, strategize, and then you can say, you know what? I think it will help next time to know who those are. Let's make sure we have a rule that if they're not defined in Salesforce, then we have a signal that tells us that we need to define it. And so those things can evolve in time and improve.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, do you have any closing comments?
I think it's everything I want to cover. Okay. I think from a summary perspective from me is that really is this data exists. This data exists. Yeah. It's in other tools, right? And if you don't have, if your team doesn't formally put it, first of all, bring tools for them that help them. Right. A side panel, an automatic sync. Our tool actually does complete automatic sync to from your email to Salesforce. But even if you do other tool does a manual sync, it's great as well. Help them, bring those tools for them. Mm-hmm. Second is use the data for better decisions, and that's super important. And use the data that exists to make those decisions. Many times it exists. You just need to make sure that you can, overlay that and create this kind of X-ray. I like to refer to it as an X-ray, because now you can really dig deeper, and by bringing those information from different systems, and now you see where you are in the process. So you can really improve. And basically, what we like to say on this is, if you do that, suddenly all your sales team will work like the top people. You won't have any bottom sales, because you really help the people that struggle be on top of the game and really execute like your top sellers.
Yep, I can see that through this process, how that would really facilitate coaching.
Absolutely. And I think in this case we can take some maybe questions from the crowd.
Yeah. I think if we will be having some sessions over Slack, so at that point we can definitely
absolutely
crowd can do it. But before that happens, I want to thank you so much, Gal, for your presentation and your walkthrough and your insights into the sales process. And
absolutely,
it was very educational.
And if anyone wants to reach out and get some guidance from us, we're happy to chat. So here's my email, and I'm available through LinkedIn or through my email. And happy to be in touch with people that are watching this session.
Thank you, Gal. And thanks
Thank you for
for,
having me.
yeah,
Thank you for having me. Next time, I hope it's in person.
absolutely.
Thank you very much, Leonard.